March 3rd, 1961. A grey Scottish morning. The residents of Dunoon, a small coastal town on the Firth of Clyde, looked out their windows and saw something impossible. A massive grey ship, 530 feet long, displacing over 17,000 tons, was sailing up Holy Loch. USS Proteus, a submarine tender, and behind her, the reason she had come. The first American ballistic missile submarines that would make this quiet Scottish fishing harbour the front line of World War III. Holy Loch was not chosen randomly. The U.S. Navy's Site Selection Committee had spent 2 years evaluating locations for forward-deployed Polaris submarine operations. They needed deep water for submarine operations, sheltered anchorage for tender support, proximity to Soviet targets, and political willingness from a NATO ally to host nuclear weapons on their soil. Holy Loch, Scotland checked every box. It was 900 miles from Moscow, close enough to cut Soviet early warning time in half, far enough from the Iron Curtain to maintain operational security. But nobody had told the people of Dunoon. USS Proteus carried a crew of 980 men and equipment to support ballistic missile submarines armed with Polaris nuclear missiles. Each missile carried a W-47 thermonuclear warhead with a yield of 600 kilotons, 40 times more powerful than the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. The submarines that would rotate through Holy Loch carried 16 of these missiles. That meant at any given moment, when an American submarine was moored alongside Proteus in Holy Loch, the harbour contained enough nuclear firepower to obliterate 16 Soviet cities. And Dunoon, population 9,000, was about to become the host community for 3,500 American sailors and their families. The first ballistic missile submarine to operate from Holy Loch was USS Abraham Lincoln, hull number SSBN 602. She arrived in April 1961, just weeks after Proteus. Commander Leonard Erb brought her up the loch on the surface, her black hull glistening in the rain, her sail cutting through the grey water like a knife. She moored alongside Proteus, and the work began. 72 hours to complete crew turnover, resupply provisions, perform maintenance, load target coordinates, and brief the incoming gold crew on the patrol they were about to undertake. The people of Dunoon watched from the shoreline. Some were curious, some were angry, some were terrified. Within days, over 1,000 protesters from the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament marched along the waterfront, demanding that the American submarines leave. They understood what the British government had been slow to explain. Holy Loch was now a nuclear target. If the Cold War turned hot, if the Soviet Union launched a first strike against the West, Holy Loch would be obliterated within minutes by submarine-launched ballistic missiles from Soviet boats prowling the North Atlantic. But the protesters also understood something else. The British economy was struggling. Dunoon's economy was dying, and the American Navy was about to inject millions of pounds into the local community. The sailors needed housing, they needed food, they needed entertainment, they needed schools for their children, and they were willing to pay. The cultural collision was immediate and strange. American sailors who had grown up in places like Texas and California were suddenly living in a Scottish village where it rained 200 days a year, and the local dialect was nearly incomprehensible. The pubs served warm beer. The shops closed on Sundays. The currency was pounds and shillings, not dollars and cents. But the Scots adapted, and so did the Americans. Within months, Dunoon had transformed. American-style restaurants opened. Bars started serving cold Budweiser alongside warm ale. English-language schools appeared. The Base Exchange sold American products, Coca-Cola, Lucky Strike cigarettes, Hershey bars, items that were still rationed or unavailable in post-war Britain. And every 60 days, like clockwork, USS Abraham Lincoln would return. She would surface in the Firth of Clyde, sail up Holy Loch, and moor alongside Proteus. The Blue crew would disembark, exhausted from 2 months submerged in the Norwegian Sea. The Gold crew would board, fresh and ready. 72 hours later, the Abraham Lincoln would cast off her lines and disappear beneath the surface, heading back to her patrol station, back to 400 feet depth, back to waiting for launch codes that everyone prayed would never come. The Soviet Union knew exactly what was happening at Holy Loch. Soviet intelligence photographed every movement. Soviet trawlers, spy ships disguised as fishing vessels, patrolled the approaches to the Firth of Clyde, monitoring submarine departures and returns. Soviet submarines prowled the deeper waters offshore, trying to pick up acoustic signatures of American ballistic missile submarines as they transited to patrol stations. But they never succeeded. The Abraham Lincoln would depart Holy Loch, slip beneath the thermocline layer where temperature differences bent sonar waves, and vanish. For 60 days, she would be a ghost. 16 nuclear missiles aimed at Soviet cities, completely undetectable, waiting at patrol depth in the Norwegian Sea or the North Atlantic. If you're finding this investigation into the hidden history of Cold War deterrence compelling, please take a moment to subscribe to Cold War Chronicles and hit the notification bell. We're declassifying the operations that kept the peace through the threat of annihilation. Your support helps us bring these forgotten stories to light. For the people of Dunoon, the presence of the American submarines became normal. Children grew up playing on beaches where nuclear-armed submarines moored just offshore. Fishermen tied their boats at docks, shared with American sailors, who carried launch authentication codes. Families attended church alongside submariners, who had spent the previous 2 months at 400 feet depth, prepared to end millions of lives if ordered. The economic impact was undeniable. By 1963, the American presence at Holy Loch contributed an estimated £3 million annually to the local Scottish economy. Shops thrived, pubs made fortunes, housing prices soared. The unemployment rate in Dunoon dropped to nearly zero, but the psychological cost was harder to measure. The town lived in the shadow of mutually assured destruction. Every resident knew that if deterrence failed, if the Soviets decided to launch a preemptive strike, Holy Loch would be hit first. The submarine tender, the ballistic missile submarines, the support facilities, and the town of Dunoon itself would be vaporized by nuclear weapons designed to eliminate America's forward deterrent capability before it could retaliate. USS Abraham Lincoln operated from Holy Loch from 1961 to 1965. During those 4 years, she completed over 20 patrols from the Scottish base. 20 times, she returned to Holy Loch to moor alongside Proteus. 20 times, the people of Dunoon watched the black hull of a nuclear-armed submarine slide past their waterfront. 20 times, they were reminded that they lived at the crossroads of World War III. The integration was never complete. There were fights in the pubs, Scots versus Americans, arguments over politics, women, perceived slights. There were protests that never stopped. Every few months, the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament would organize a march, demanding that the submarines leave, that Britain refuse to host American nuclear weapons, that the government prioritize peace over NATO alliance obligations. The protesters were ignored by both governments. The submarines stayed. The patrols continued. Deterrence held. In 1965, USS Abraham Lincoln shifted home ports from Holy Loch to Guam. The Pacific. New patrol zones, new targets, same mission. But other submarines replaced her. USS Sam Houston, USS John Marshall, USS Andrew Jackson. The cycle continued. For 31 years, from 1961 to 1992, American ballistic missile submarines operated from Holy Loch. Dozens of submarines, thousands of patrols, hundreds of thousands of days at sea, carrying nuclear weapons, waiting for orders. And the people of Dunoon waited with them. The strategic success of Holy Loch was undeniable. By positioning ballistic missile submarines just 900 miles from Moscow, the United States cut Soviet early warning time from 30 minutes to 15 minutes. That meant if the Soviets launched a first strike, they would have 15 minutes, not 30, to reach their hardened bunkers before American missiles began detonating over Soviet cities. That compression of decision-making time made first strikes strategically irrational. It reinforced deterrence. It made nuclear war less likely because it made nuclear war less survivable. But it also meant that a small Scottish town carried the weight of nuclear deterrence for 3 decades. The children who watched USS Abraham Lincoln arrive in 1961 were in their 30s when the last American submarine left in 1992. An entire generation grew up in the shadow of the mushroom cloud that never came. When the Cold War ended in 1991, the strategic necessity of Holy Loch evaporated. The Soviet Union collapsed. The threat diminished. In 1992, the American submarines departed. USS Proteus sailed away for the last time. The base closed. The Americans went home. Dunoon's economy collapsed almost overnight. The shops that had catered to American sailors closed. The bars lost their customers. The housing market crashed. The unemployment rate soared. Some residents celebrated. The nuclear target was gone. The town was safe again. Others mourned. The jobs were gone. The money was gone. The town was dying again. Today, Holy Loch is quiet. The submarine tender is gone. The anti-submarine boom is gone. The American sailors are gone. A memorial plaque stands near the waterfront, commemorating the 31 years when a Scottish fishing harbour was one of the most strategically important pieces of real estate in the Cold War. Most visitors don't know what it means. Most residents try not to remember. But for 4 years, from 1961 to 1965, USS Abraham Lincoln called Holy Loch home, and the people of Dunoon lived alongside her, knowing that the black submarine moored at their dock carried enough nuclear firepower to end the world. They served the sailors in their shops. They drank with them in their pubs. They raised their children alongside American children whose fathers carried launch codes, and they waited for the day that never came, the day when deterrence would fail and the missiles would fly. It never happened. The submarines patrolled. The Soviets never struck first. The world survived. And a small Scottish town carried the weight of nuclear deterrence, so the rest of the world didn't have to. This is Cold War Chronicles. If you found this story of the invisible front lines compelling, please subscribe and turn on notifications. The submarines are gone, but their stories remain. Thank you for ensuring that the people of Dunoon and the submariners who served at Holy Loch are not forgotten.